Welcome to the latest Facebook Live from Minerva Growth, where we look to bring value to business owners around the globe on topics that be useful to them right now, but also into the future. So, hi, good afternoon. Thanks for taking part in the live chat today. Please, can you introduce yourself and also your business?
So my name's Kate Jackson, and I run a business called Wellbeing Therapy Solutions based in Leicester.
Okay, so tell us more about the business then.
Okay, so the business has two arms to it, really. I'm an occupational therapist by profession, and there are two arms to it. So one is very much kind of targeted at individuals who want to improve their mental health, maybe experiencing something like anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder, any kind of mental health problem that's really impacting on day to day their lives. So I do individual therapy with children, young people and adults. And then the other arm of my business is a lot more sort of training and consultancy based. So I go into workplaces, to schools, to charities, to all sorts of organisations to deliver training and workshops and facilitate staff discussions and work on workplace wellbeing strategies. But the main aim of all the work I do is around helping people to have better mental health.
Wow, amazing. So obviously 2020, we might as well start as we mean to go on. Obviously COVID, pandemic, lockdown, all that good stuff. I can imagine you've had quite a tough year.
Yeah, it's been tricky. I think my business started 2 years ago. Just this week, actually, 2 years. So
congratulations.
Thank you. So things were going fairly well, building nicely, and March hit and saw all of my training, workshops, all of the corporate side of things really drop off because obviously what position they would be in. And at that point, most of the work I did was face-to-face. So in the changing room or going into the workplace or booking a conference room somewhere. So I guess two things. One, it was hard. It was tough. It felt like my business was crumbling on me. And then the other part of me was like, well, let's see this as an opportunity. And so now most of my work is online. So it's really changed things.
I would have thought is a major focus. It's a refocus of the mind, but actually at that time, it may feel like the whole world's falling apart. But actually, people need you. Oh my God, so much more than ever before as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I feel really fortunate in the work that I do. I love what I do, and actually, I feel like I can offer something really helpful to people at the moment. It has been a bit of a time when most people's mental health will have been impacted in some way or another in the past few months, which is unusual for so many people to be impacted by something. But I feel like it holds a real opportunity then, because I think workplaces have massively rethought how they run their businesses, where they run their businesses, trying to be a bit more personal for people and having to consider personal lives. You know, those of us that were homeschooling and various things and unable to get to their workplaces or work from, be able to work from home, things have changed massively. So I feel like there's a real opportunity now for particularly workplaces, but also for individuals who've struggled and found it really hard to make those adjustments or had huge life changes in loss, bereavement, unemployment, redundancy, all sorts of things going on. There's kind of hope that there is some support out there.
So many questions. So I think you're absolutely bang on. It's completely unique that everyone globally was in the same position almost at the same time as well. And everything was being felt around the globe. And it was just nothing like we've ever seen it in this level ever before. And I don't think there's anyone out there who can say that their mental health hasn't been affected in some way at all. And I think if they are, they're just lying to themselves. I also hope everything you've said is that it has changed for the better now. And that I think, if anything, it's brought that whole well-being conversation much more into the forefront. I think businesses are very much leading with it now for the right reasons. Where before it was very trendy to talk about it, but they didn't really care that much. Whereas actually now they do. And I think the whole remote working and all that, I think there's a lot of positives we can take from it all. And I just hope it sticks.
Yeah, absolutely. Because I think we've all everyone's been able to see our whole selves. So previously you would go to work and you would be your work self maybe. And when that all changes, and if you are able to work from home and now we're all very used to being on video calls and what have you, it kind of you work into your own home, don't you? Which means that they see you cats and your dogs and your kids and your washing and all sorts of things, you know.
But people don't mind. People are much more
No,
forgiving about it. My
no,
dog often walks, and you see a black tail walking
yeah,
across here. It's like, there, here she is. About 4 o'clock, she's always getting a bit hungry, looking for some dinner, and she wants,
yeah,
wants a bit of attention. But until then, but people are quite forgiving about it. So, how are you
exactly.
finding the whole online world now,
Yeah.
moving from being face to face to doing it across Zoom and
Mm.
Teams and whatever else? How's that? How are you finding that
Yeah.
switch?
For me, I think there are some real benefits to it, some real pluses, because you can reach so many more people in a very different way. I find barriers, though, given the topic and the nature of a lot of the things that we're discussing, the sensitivity around it. I run mental health first aid courses, so we discuss all sorts of emotive topics around depression, suicide, psychosis, all sorts of things. And it takes, I think when you're in a classroom, you can pick up on the cues from people a lot more than you can on a screen, because I don't necessarily, I get just a little snapshot of people across the bottom of my screen sometimes, and that can be really hard. So it's, for me, I've had to really think about how I set the courses up, and how they're managed. But again, that's all new skills, and the feedback on the courses has been brilliant. So I think it's working well. It's just, I don't think any one way is better than the other. They're just different. So I think it's nice now, turning a corner, to be able to offer both. So fingers crossed, in next week I'm doing my first classroom training course again. To give people that choice is really nice. I think if that can continue, we can make it
The
stick.
flexibility for a small business owner is huge, though, to have that luxury
Yeah.
of being able to choose between the two. I mean, are you just looking after people in your local area, or have you gone any further now using the online tools?
So I was pretty much working nationally anyway. I did a lot of work in the East Midlands, but really always been happy to travel. That was part of my kind of transition, really, that I didn't want to go to the same places all the time. So I have been really fortunate to work all over the country. But yeah, it just widens it again, and it can, be international now. It doesn't have to be UK. It can be, global, really. So yeah, I do think that widens your audience, doesn't it, and gives you real scope. I had a course last week where there were literally people, it was all UK based, but all over the UK, and that was great to be able to bring people together, which I probably wouldn't have done previously.
You need to be going across ocean, shall we say, across Atlantic, definitely,
Yes.
because there's a huge marketplace for Brits over there as well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the scope's massive, and I think as much as it's been hard, there's been real challenges, and it's been tricky. The opportunities, how far outweigh that for me, for me personally.
So there's two very different models of the business then. So you're looking at individuals and then you're looking at groups. Let's look at the individuals first. Typically, what type of people are these that you're helping?
Yeah, so it could be literally anybody that is struggling. So if I give you an example, at the moment I'm doing quite a bit of work with children,
Okay.
and the process at the moment of going back to school. So lots of children struggle with school and anxiety and social
Yeah.
situations. Even more so, obviously, at the moment, particularly having a period of time out of school and all the normal kind of transitional stuff happened. So I open my doors to anybody really who would like some support. Most of the people I see don't quite meet criteria for NHS services. Sadly, a lot of the services can be quite reactive, so there has to be a bit of a crisis point going on. So my aim, one of my values is about working with people as early as possible to prevent those crisis situations happening. So I think for most of the kind of adults I see, most of them are working in some way or another, but struggling, probably just about getting through, managing life to a point, but struggling with things like low mood, maybe not sleeping, avoiding situations, really anxious. The individual side of things also, across the two arms of my business, in that some companies pay me as kind of a therapist for staff, so a bit of a benefit for employees who are smaller businesses who don't have a big employee assistance program but want to offer something to support their staff. And particularly through the pandemic, I've been working with quite a number of people who mainly have been living alone and working from home during this pandemic and struggled. So it's been really nice to be able to offer that for employers to say, yeah, this is, and there's been I'm really lucky with the companies I work with. They're just like, yeah, go for it, whatever somebody wants they can have, which is
It's
really,
amazing.
really
That's
good.
huge. And what do these companies look like? I mean, what type are they? Certain sectors they're in, or are they certain size or certain
Yeah.
location?
So in terms of size, they're usually up to around 100
Okay.
employees. I've actually worked a lot with tech companies, technology, software, IT. They've been my main kind of port of call. But I mean, I guess I'm happy to work with any organisation really. I've done a lot of work recently with HR staff. I find I run open courses, and I run courses that I do just specifically for one company, and I'd go into their company and deliver it. But the bulk of my work has come through HR of late, who tend to be the go-to person when somebody's struggling on or there's taking days off sick here and there. There are little signs happening, and generally the HR staff want to be able to know how to manage that situation a little bit better, feel more confident in talking about it and supporting their staff.
It's amazing. It's good to hear what you're doing is proactive as well, rather than being
Mm,
reactive and things have gone too far. It's actually
yeah,
pick up those warning bells, those triggers, those little signs that you can tell way in
yeah.
advance of it getting too big a problem as well. That's amazing.
That's it. I think a lot of people I see, they've been to their GP, and maybe they don't want to go down the route of medication, because so I'm an occupational therapist, so I use a lot of kind of activity doing. We look at what you do, how you do it, and set small goals, and look at managing daily life and strategies do that. And most people don't particularly want to take medication. That's kind of their not, and GPs unfortunately have very little resource and kind of options. So I feel it's really beneficial to be able to offer something that's kind of different to that, and maybe working alongside medication as well. But that there are options, and it doesn't have to be counselling necessarily. Because I think with the work that I do, I'm not a counsellor. I can't work in particular areas of trauma or past events. I work very much with here and now and moving forward. And actually, the clients I see, that works really well. And they kind of want to address what's happening now and move forward.
Okay. So take you all the way back then. How did you start in the first place? What's your background?
Okay, so I went to uni when I was 18 to study sociology, and hated it and left and didn't know what I wanted to do with my life and all of that. So I went to work at British Gas for a little while, not really know what I wanted to do. I guess over time I realised I wanted to work with people, looked at health professions, and found this profession of occupational therapy. I did a bit of work experience in some hospitals and different places, loved it. Decided to go to uni to study it. Hadn't ever considered working in mental health at that point. And so I did my first placement through uni, which was at a hospital in Leicester, a psychiatric hospital, and I absolutely loved it and just fell in love with supporting people and their mental health. And it was just something I'd not really considered previously. So that was a spark for me, and where my real passion came out in my practice. So once I finished uni, I went to work in the NHS for a number of years in adult mental health services, and mainly around Leicestershire. And then I left the NHS. It was a tricky time. There was a lot of service closures, and I was getting a bit disillusioned with it all and not sure what to do.
Mm.
And I loved having students. I loved teaching students. So to take them on placement with me. So I went to work at Coventry Uni as a lecturer for a number of years, and I still do a little bit of teaching there now, really. So that was probably 12 years ago I started there. So that was my permanent job for a long time, 10 years or so. I was a lecturer, and then I was really missing being in practice. As much as I love working with students, kind of wanted to get back into practice again. So I left my permanent post there to work in a hospice as a clinical lead for a little while, which was amazing. Working in end of life and really bringing the skills in kind of the psychological side of things, but also obviously physical health. So it was a real privilege to work there and work with charity as well, which I've never done before. And I loved that. I'm really fortunate. I've had lots of jobs I really love, but I guess the driver for me then to set up my own business was that I had this urge or want to work a bit more to my own values, to offer something much more proactive rather than being reactive and feeling constrained by red tape and boundaries and finances and all sorts of things. So I did a bit of a Dragon's Den pitch to my husband 2 years ago, just over 2 years ago, and said, I think I can do this. And he was fortunately right behind me. So I left my job at the hospice. I went back to the uni one day a week, and I took a job as a mentor for students, university students who have diagnosed mental health problems, for one day a week. So I was working 2 days, 3 days a week building my business. So that's what I did, started with, and now I'm full time in my business. I do tiny bits of teaching at the university here and there, to keep my hand in, and I really enjoy that. That's really nice.
It's a
Um,
great story. That's amazing. So, how has the first 2 years been? I mean, no one's going to lie. The first 2 years are hard as anything,
yeah,
and I think I remember that finding the second year it started to get a little bit easier. It doesn't get completely easy, but it just starts to get that little bit easier. And second year, and it gets easier. It does get easier. I mean, things change all the time. But so, how
yeah.
have the 2 years been
Yeah,
for you?
2 years has been great. It's flown by, really. I
Yeah,
think if I look back to where I was 2 years ago to where I am now and what I'm doing, I think I'm doing different things than I intended at that
yeah,
beginning point, because you're kind of working out, aren't you, and seeing,
yeah.
I was going into a market, business was totally new to me. I've worked in the public sector for years. So I had a lot to learn, always learning, which is good. I really like a challenge. I really like to work to my own kind of values around things. So it's pushed me in ways that I didn't think it would. But I think if it had, pre-pandemic, things were starting to thrive a bit, really. I was feeling really good about the business. Then a bit of a hiccup, but now, gently moving forward. So business for me, I guess it's positive. I feel like I've got something really beneficial to offer to people that's genuine and real and comes from the heart. People only deal with me. I am my business, and I pride myself on that. That people deal with me. I'm the person answering the emails. I'm the person picking up the phone. I'm the person who will turn up and deliver your training and do your evaluation forms and send your invoice, which is busy, but it feels genuine to me, and that people get to know me really well, and I get to know my clients, and we have really good relationships. That's important. That's important to me.
100%. So, what motivates you?
Motivates me. I guess it's the belief that everybody can struggle at times, and that everybody can get better, and it doesn't last forever, and to give people that reassurance that there is help out there, and sometimes it feels like there isn't. I've been in a personal situation where I felt like there's nothing available and nothing to help me. I found out there was, and that really helped things. So I think for me, I kind of thrive, and what motivates me is kind of the good feedback, the satisfaction that actually somebody's feeling better. And I got a text last week from a child's mum who'd gone back to school for the first day, and the text was, "She smashed it." Now, this child was so anxious about going, and that to me just makes my day. So for me, it's about the reward that motivates me. To know that people can feel better and see them improving motivates me. I've got a family, and I want to be a good role model for my daughter, to show her that she can do anything she wants to do, really. If you told me I'd be doing this 20 years ago when I qualified, I've never have believed you, because I used
Very
to
cool.
go to Delhi giving a presentation. So
It's very cool. Just look how far you've come, and it's amazing. So, how do you see the world right now? Obviously, we're at the beginning of September. As I say, 2020 is not where anyone would have thought they would have been. Not everything that's happened this year, you would not been able to write it in a million years. So, how do you see the world right now?
I think the world is a place. I think we have to respect the world a bit, and I think we have to stop. And I think we should have been stopping and thinking over the past few months about what we can offer the world and what the world gives to us. And I think it's a place that's taught us something over the past few months, and actually we need to listen to that, I think. And for a lot of people, for me, the kind of the stopping and checking in. I was working ridiculous hours pre-COVID, and I accept you need to work hard to run a business. I have no problem with that. But actually, it has made me stop and think about where my hours go in, and how effective that is. So I think for me, the world is always a place of opportunity, but I think we have to respect it, and think about what we can bring to that then, and what keeps us healthy. Because from I think a lot of people have reflected on things over the past few months and thought about what they want to be doing, how they want life to be. And I think most people don't want to go back to how things were before. So for me, the world's a place of opportunity, but we just have to be cautious about what we do. And I think we have to respect all the different aspects of the world, and be a bit more responsible, I think, and a bit more accountable.
Love that. Absolutely. Completely agree with you. So, you've got all this experience behind you. You're now a business owner of 2 years. So, what's the best tip you'd give someone who is thinking about starting out right now?
Okay. So I have to tell myself this still, but I think you don't have to know everything.
Yeah,
You can go for it and not have to know everything. You can get things wrong, you can learn from it, you can move forward, and actually things change over time. And I think you've got to be kind of willing to accept that and know that it's not going to happen overnight. So I think I'm in the service industry, so I've had to do a lot of trial and error, see what works, see what people like, don't like, and be comfortable with that. And that not everything is successful, and that doesn't mean you're a failure or it's not going to work. It just might be a different way to go. So don't fret if it's not going the way that you want it to straight away, because it just takes time.
I completely agree with everything you've said, and I think exposing yourself, as in I don't know everything, I am still
Mm.
learning, I'm a human being, is actually a major, massive strength as well.
Yeah, and I think that's okay. Do you know what I'm doing some work with a big banking company at the moment, which again was an opportunity that came through COVID, and I'm really honest with them, because they will say, "Oh, how do you feel about this?" And we'll do X, Y, and Z, and so I just said, it's the first time I've done it, so let me think about it, and I'll come back to you. And if it's not quite right, we'll change it. And actually, that's working really well. And so for me, I guess my other tip is to be yourself, because if you're not authentically you, you're going to mess up, aren't you? So and
100%.
people see through you and pick out the hole. So, and I think your target market is the whole world. So if somebody doesn't get you, that's all right as well. And they're not maybe the client for you, but there will be others. So and that's all right.
So much knowledge you drop in there, and I completely agree with everything you've said. You've got to be yourself. If you've got a cloak on, or you're trying to be someone else, you can't hold it up. It's physically impossible, and it also must be extremely stressful trying to be something you're not. uh
Absolutely.
100%. And I think everything you've said then is, I completely resonate with
But then
everything.
you
It's
have to
true.
really have a confidence and value yourself as well. And I think that's for me come over the past 2 years, is actually working out what I can offer and who I am and that kind of stuff. I'm not talking about going on an X Factor journey or anything like that, but I think there's kind of way you kind of have to feel confident about what you can and what you can't do as well, and not try to take on stuff that isn't your
Absolutely.
expertise just because somebody wants you to do it. Because I have
Absolutely.
it feels
Cool.
strange to turn down business sometimes, but that's for me the ethical thing to do.
I always find that if I'm not motivated by doing it, I'm not going to do
Mm.
it very well. So you learn very quickly to say no, and you just stick to the stuff that you really enjoy doing. Because my God, you'll deliver it amazingly well, and everyone, it's a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, totally. I think which your heart's me. I'm a heart person as well. So I guess sometimes that's tricky in business, but I think if it doesn't feel right to me, then there's no, because I will give my all to it, and everything I do bespoke. Apart from mental health first aid courses are a product that I deliver, but I do deliver it very personally. But everything else I make bespoke for each individual client. So if my heart's not in it, they're not going to get the best from me, and that's not right.
So, next question: what project are you working on currently that is most important to you?
Okay, so I'm going to go back to the lovely children I work with. So over the summer, I developed a package called Grow and Go, which is individual therapy sessions for young people from sort of year 6 and 9 or 10 upwards to the age of sixth form, and to give them kind of tailored support to help them in that transition. Mainly it was around going back to school, but really anything that a young person might be struggling with. So that's where my real passion lies, because so much mental illness in adults starts in children. So if
Mhm.
we can, again, give them the skills and the strategies and the knowledge as young as possible, then that's only going to help them, as they go through life, through the whole lifespan. So that's my drive at the minute. That's my passion at the minute, is getting that project on its way now and getting some really nice feedback and results for those children going back to school.
Excellent. I like that. So this might be hand in hand with that. So what's next for either you or the business going forward?
Okay, so a couple of things really. I think for me, I really want to get back in the classroom. It's where I feel, or the training room, that's where I come into myself, and that's kind of really important to me. So COVID allowing, I'm gently growing again the classroom-based training, um, and I really want the business to grow in terms of mental health first aid. So I'm really passionate about people feeling confident to have a conversation, ask somebody if they're okay, and then know what to do with that if they say they're not, or or whether to go back, and how to have those conversations. So the mental health first aid courses that I run are I love them. The feedback's brilliant. The delegates learn so much and take things away. And that really is around being in workplaces. So every workplace of a certain size will have a physical first aider on site or, online. I know lots of people are working from home, but even more so then it's so more important to have mental health first aiders who can spot things in people, particularly as we're working so much more remotely in many, many different sectors. So I really want to encourage people to look into that and to think about how that might support their colleagues, their workplaces, and having a healthier kind of workplace where people can truly be themselves. And like I say, most of the people I see are going to work but really struggling and not necessarily getting the support that they feel able to ask for at work.
I love that. So, if you've inspired anyone to take action or to find out a bit more about you, how can someone learn more about what you're doing, or how to get in contact with you?
Yep. So I guess the starting point is my website. So it's wellbeingtherapysolutions.co.uk. I've got quite an active Facebook page, but lots of stuff on there, lots of helpful things. And you can connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm a little bit on Twitter, and I'm starting an Instagram page, but my main kind of communication with people is through the website and Facebook.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time
Oh,
today, Kate.
thank
That's
you.
very inspiring. There's so much knowledge there for anyone, whether it's mental health or just starting out business as well. I think so much of what you said resonates with me and the kind of journey I've been on as well. So let's hope we can inspire, a few more people going forwards. Thank you.
Great. No, thank you. Thanks for the opportunity.